talk to your friends. Go herd your goats. Come on, go get your goats. Come on. There we go. Hi, everybody. It's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch Sustainable Living Education Center in far west Texas. Once again with chicken noise, but not quite so much chicken noise as we used to have. A bunch of the roosters are gone. Today I want to talk to you about deep litter or a deep litter system. That's one of those things that a lot of times we shy away from because I don't know what it is. What is? I don't know. What should we do with it? I haven't got a clue. We don't know, so we shy away from it. So the term deep litter, yeah, okay, it sounds good, but you know, the book told me throw a bunch of shavings down, rake them up once a week. That kind of thing. Well, deep litter is a system that I've used here. I'm going to put my gloves on while I talk. I've used deep litter since we first started in with poultry, and I always say that was 20 years. It was actually 2002, when we started using a deep litter system for our poultry. And it has worked great, but never as good as right now. And that's why I want to show you the video about deep litter for your chickens. Now, if you got 4 or 5 hens, no, you know, you're not probably going to use a deep litter system, but you can. But if you've got 20, 15, 20, in a smaller area, yeah, certainly. This is my nursery here. This is where the young chicks come until they're big enough that the roosters can't harass them, or it's the place where the meat chickens spend their whole life. Now, if you saw any of the earlier videos about our meat chicken experiment, which the book is still, I'm still developing the book because I had to change the whole concept, but if you saw anything about that, all my meat birds were in here, and consequently, all their crap, leftover feed, the bit of straw that I did throw in, all got in here, and it all decomposed. And when I say decomposed, I guess it kind of composted. What happened was the water, all the moisture got in here, packed down, and it did smell for a couple of weeks. Don't touch it. Just let it go. It's going to smell for a little while. Then the domestic beetles, which just appear magically out of anywhere. Yeah, that hen just laid an egg, and she's going to tell a story. The domestic beetles appear out of nowhere, and they start burrowing into it. They lay their eggs and larvae. Now, they lay their eggs and larvae. The larva is going to eat the deep litter, but also the chickens are in here like this, trying to get the larvae, so they keep turning it over and turning it over. Well, eventually, it starts to get deep. This stuff here, and I put the roosts back in place, but this stuff back here is actually that deep. Now, that's about 12 inches. It was about 12 inches of pure soil, composted already, ready to go soil. That's chicken manure. Whoops, up here, there we go. Now you can see it. That's chicken manure from about 450 birds just from last year. Now, we didn't have anybody in for quite a while before that, so that's just last year's. I've also got quite a bit of manure that's not composted up here that I can't get to because there's chicken water. But this here, we're running roughly a 12 inches seems to be about what we've got here. There were some big hunks that came up. I mean, like here's a hunk, but there were some big hunks like that came up. Those are like tree sticks almost, or cubes of fertilizer that you put in stuff. I took that stuff out and put it around our trees. Now, as we water or it rains, the nutrients will leach out of that slowly into the plants. No smell, no odor when it does that. There's no odor here right now except for a slightly musty odor. I'm going to get, and I'm going to show you the piles when I finish cleaning. I've got to finish this room. I'm only half done. I've got to do this room. I'll finish them all up. I'll show you the piles I got from 450 chickens. Pure fertilizer that I've already paid for, right? Because I bought the feed, fed it to them. You know, I've already paid for the fertilizer. This is free fertilizer. All I have to do is rake it up. You got to rake it up anyway because tomorrow I have 110 more meat birds coming. So I got to get hustling. I'll be back in a little bit to show you the finished, cleaned out room. Won't be 100% clean because we have to leave some deep litter there. so that the domestic beetle larvae hatch and start the process a little sooner. But I'm going to get about, let's say I'm going to get about 75% of everything up right now. I'll be back. Hey, so if you guys are like me, sometimes natural concepts can go right over our heads when somebody goes to all the trouble of coming up with fancy words, fancy phrases, and really tries to Rube Goldberg the whole concept. A good example of that was, at least for me, was when I started studying aquaponics. The first thing I did was nothing. Because they're talking in aquaponics about, well, you need a sediment filter, and then you need a media tank to transform the nitrates into nitrates, and it didn't go over my head, but it was like too much thinking, and I hope you identify with that. Sometimes stuff is just too much thinking when people throw too many words into it. Well, honestly, a sediment filter is just, you got a tank, water flows in it, the crap settles to the bottom. Goes into another tank full of chunks of plastic, media, that eventually just get covered with bacteria because the water's nasty. The bacteria sits there and chomps and eats. It's a natural process. It's no big deal. You just stuff 2 tanks in there, put the water from one to the other, and then into the system. The deep litter is kind of the same way. I can get all we're doing this and we're semi-composting, and I can go, hey, it's a natural process. It does need to be fairly dry, so you have to have a dry coop in order for it to work. But if your coop's a little moist, it'll work too. You're just going to throw some straw in or some wood chips. Now, not covering it like you would normally. Hey, by the way, I forgot to add, this works in a wet climate too. Remember, we had our first poultry farm in North Florida in a hardwood swamp where we had high humidity and a lot of moisture. It worked there too. So it'll work dry climate, wet climate. It worked for us, it'll work for you. I hope you try it, and if you have questions, write in the comments or get a hold of me via email. Thanks. But if it works right, and this is why I'm doing this video right now. This is a perfect example of it working right. You can see the dust coming up here as I rake this. That means it's dry. You can't see back here. I'm going to try to pull up a little moisture. But there's some of the dirt there, I pulled a piece up, is wet. Now that water's, because I left the valve open and dumped water in here about a week and a half ago. But it does require some water because otherwise the domestic beetles can't live, their larvae can't grow. But it's a fairly simple process. It's just a matter of letting it alone. Let it be. What we're looking at here is stuff that I did starting almost a year ago. Last May was when the first birds came in here. And I just left it go, and yeah, especially when they got up around 8 weeks, it did stink for a while. Then all of a sudden, something miraculous happened, and we could go and Rube Goldberg it all to pieces, but all that happened was the domestic beetle larva hatched all at once. All the eggs they laid hatched, and poof, they started eating. So I'm left with this stuff here. Now what I'm going to do with this stuff here is I'm going to screen it so I get a more consistent soil out of it, or dirt layer out of it to mix in the greenhouse. But that's a whole separate video. The thing is, I didn't pay any money for wood shavings. I didn't get out here and rake this up once a week. I just let it lay until right now when I need to get it out because I'm going to get this much more in here. Very simple process, very good process. And I'll show you, again, I'll cut away and show you just how much I got out of it. Kind of chopping this video up because I wanted to jump in and say that about overcomplicating. But it's right here. It was just the same soil that I have everywhere around me, that kind of tan-colored adobe soil. It's an adobe clay bentonite mix that we have here. Started out as that, and now I've got this beautiful stuff here that's great for growing. I'll come back and show you just how much we got. Well guys, as you can see, once you start disturbing that, or even actually once I just opened the door up to let the chickens in, they start gouging this up and tilling it, I mean, it's just, it's a wonderfully natural process. They're in here tilling, getting the what food they can still find. They're looking for larvae, they're looking for eggs. Who knows what the heck they're looking for? I have no idea what goes on in the chicken's mind. But you can see, scratch, scratch, peck, peck, and that's what keeps it nice and clean. That and the domestic beetles, that's an integral part of it. So again, you can't be spraying pesticides in here. If I let them go, and I will let them go once I get this all out, they'll have this all tilled up and nice and soft, ready for the new chicks. Well, in the mess that is the construction zone, I've got two piles of the deep litter. This is one pile. This was 8 wheelbarrows full of deep litter only. Now, yeah, I know I see some debris in there, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Let me show you the other pile. And this is the other pile. It's 6 wheelbarrow loads that I dumped here and then realized I put them in the wrong place, so I still have to move these. So that's 14 wheelbarrow loads. I've got to screen it, and I'll take out debris that's probably, even if it's 2 wheelbarrow loads, I still have 12 of good, usable, well, it's usable soil, but I will have to mix it with some of our topsoil that I get at our local hardware store. Except for one more thing. The nursery is completely ready now. I'm letting the chickens come in and still scratch it up, but I've gotten everything out that I want. There's enough deep litter here to restart the deep litter a second time. Ready for the babies. I've got my feed trough here. Just out of your sight is water with our chicken watering system all set up to go. Nothing else to say, I guess, except put the chickens in and off we go. I'll do another video on the chickens later, but until I do, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch Sustainable Living Education Center in a yellow shirt instead of a pink one, saying, see you later.